It's Wednesday, September 19, and this is your Barbados Today Evening News Update. So glad you can join us. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Government today unveiled a tough debt restructuring deal for the island's bondholders, warning that the alternative would be much more painful. At a news conference, Central Bank Governor Cliviston Haynes announced that an offer was launched on September 7, asking companies and private individuals to exchange the majority of the government's debt with new debt instruments. The move essentially means that investors will earn less money on their government instruments. Bondholders now have until October 5 to respond, and Haynes acknowledges it's a big but necessary sacrifice.
We do want persons to accept the offer. If persons do not accept the offer, then we probably leave ourselves in a situation of limbo, in the sense that to the extent that the government is unable to continue to service the existing debt, then you end up neither receiving your interest payments or doing anything about getting your amortization payments on track, and you slow the whole process. So what I'm hopeful is that we've shared enough information that will incentivize persons to want to participate in the offer, rather than to slow the overall macroeconomic adjustment.
As at September 11, local individuals and companies held in excess of $6 billion in government papers. Economic advisor on the Barbados Economic Recovery Team, Professor Avinash Prasad, cautioned that if bondholders rejected the deal, Barbados would be in trouble. He maintains that the default was government's best option to turn around the economic mess.
The default is the way back to the path of sustainability. I think people see the default as saying you are finally going to get your act together, and that, therefore, is the route to credibility. Now, what happens if we had continued at 175% by a strike? The only way that we were affording that is by printing dollars. If no one else is lending to you, then what we started doing is paying our bills not with borrowed money, but paying our bills with printed money. Going to the port to buy an import with a dollar that was printed, not backed with any dollars in reserves. No wonder our reserves were cascading down, and if we didn't do anything, our reserves would have hit zero within a matter of a few weeks. So then we wouldn't have been able to import things very easily. Then we would have had to adjust, not over the 4 years of the fund program, we would have had to adjust the economy in 3 months.
The quiet community of Fifth Avenue, Rowan St. George, is disturbed by last evening's tragic incident in which one resident died and the other remains hospitalized. 68-year-old Cecil Miller, former chairman of the Barbados Tourism Product Authority, was found dead at his home, while his wife, 63-year-old Cyberton Miller, is receiving medical treatment at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Today, relatives declined to speak to Barbados Today about the incident, but neighbors described the couple as quiet individuals who were private. Meanwhile, Tourism Minister Kerry Simmons has been paying tribute to the former BTPA chairman. He told Barbados Today that Miller was at the forefront of building out various aspects of the tourism sector. Police are continuing investigations. 3 months after the fuel tax took effect, there are still concerns that the levy is another burden on Barbadians. The issue came up in the upper chamber today during debate on the Road Traffic Amendment Bill. Senators suggested that the country would have been better off if the government had maintained the road tax.
I did a little calculation, because that car, because I do a lot of traveling, I would fill up every 5 or 6 days. So I assume 5 or 6 days a week. I said there are 52 weeks in a year, well, and that was 45 liters every 5 or 6 days. That comes to a tax of $18. At 40 cents, it's $18 per week by 52 weeks. $936 I'm now paying for road tax as opposed to the $400 that I was paying before.
My view on it is that the large lump sum payment perhaps was one of the issues that led to the non-compliance that we saw. Make sense? To me it does. One of the other things that needs to be considered, we're talking about a 40% increase at the per litre at the pump for diesel and for gasoline. What we have neglected to mention is that with the repeal of the NSRL, the net effect is actually a 28-cent increase. So when I, Crystal Haynes, consider that I used to pay $1,600 out of pocket one time, and I consider the $1,600 spread out over 12 months, it's $133 a month. My increase in monthly fuel consumption has not increased by $133. I'm not sure what Senator Franklin drove that would cost him $400 a month. And I'm sorry. Right. $400 a year it was before, but I'm sorry. But I, for one, have benefited from the new measure.
A major initiative is afoot to transform the Parkinson Memorial School. Today, Education Minister Cynthia Bradshaw rolled out the 5-year pilot program, which will see Goddard Enterprises and Sign Depot adopting the school. Under the initiative, the school will benefit from significant funding. Minister Bradshaw urged students to be part of the transformation process.
And so I want to challenge you today to not just sit back and relax and just go to your classes, but I want you to take a vested interest in the Parkinson School, of which you are now a part of. Because I know that there are people who have passed through this institution who have done well and done exceptionally well. And therefore you have something to look up to in those individuals who have passed through this institution. And I want you to bear that in mind as you go to your classes, as you settle down from the first form level through the rest of the school. You need to settle down and focus and decide what it is that you want to do.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news now. In Trinidad and Tobago, all 4,800 workers at Petrol Train will be sent home. Word of this from Chairman Wilfred Espinay, who has been clearing up reports about how many workers will be severed.
I would think that there's been very clear that all the employees of Petrol Train will exit the company, all. So do we get that clear so that nobody has to call me up at 10 o'clock in the night?
But just how many is all? Conflicting figures have been allowed to gain traction. For 2 weeks, reporting and public discourse have focused on the 2,600 workers from exploration and production and refining and marketing who stand to lose jobs. On Tuesday, the board said its total workforce, all 4,817 people, will be sent home. At a media conference Espinay hoped would clear up confusion about Petrotran's future, journalists asked why the company didn't clarify the correct figure sooner.
This is the last time I'll be answering a number question on employees, because really we are pulling this number thing.
Did Petrotran do a robust enough job in the 4 weeks, this is week 4 since that first set of figures came out, in correcting the figures right away?
What is it that I'm not saying that I should be saying? I'm lost. Will you feel comfortable if I take full responsibility, which I do, And I'm sorry if the number has been stated and anywhere that anybody in Trinidad said the wrong number, I take full responsibility for that.
On the international scene, British Prime Minister Theresa May urged fellow European Union leaders at an informal summit on Wednesday to follow her lead and adapt their Brexit negotiating stance to secure a good deal. However, before a dinner in the Austrian city of Salzburg, some of those leaders said key elements of the Chequers plan that May was aiming to sell to them needs reworking.
It was here in Salzburg, Austria, that the classic Hollywood musical The Sound of Music took place.
Prime Minister, hello.
This week, it's where British Prime Minister Theresa May is negotiating the fate of Brexit. So far, there's no singing with joy. A government source says May isn't impressed with the most recent proposal from the EU to avoid a crisis on the Irish border. Their plan: set up customs checks for certain goods away from the border, at businesses and markets instead. They hope it'll keep that border open, which is what both sides want. Reuters' Alistair MacDonald is also in Salzburg, where he says now there's renewed pressure for an insurance plan for the Irish question in case all other deals fail, what's often called the backstop.
What is happening here in Salzburg could be the beginning of the end game for negotiations. Now, these trade talks could go in several different directions. There's an intention to get a broad outline of what they might look like to accompany the withdrawal treaty that they hope to complete in the next few months. However, the Irish government is particularly keen that this needs to be a legally operable backstop, something that would work whatever happens. So they are very keen that this can does not get kicked down the road. At the same time, the British are saying, look, we cannot have Northern Ireland being different from the British mainland. The Europeans are saying, well, there are already some differences. These are checks that would be largely invisible. People would not see them.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and Bus Terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good evening.